LATD Nation, we back in here with another video for y'all here, man. We've got another movie review.
Special movie review.
Oh, yeah. Highly anticipated movie. But before we get into that, this is your boy, Jay.
And this is Rodney, of course, RG from the 843.
Yes, sir. I be Jay, big man, big plans, whole world stand. You know how that go. But we got a special review today. Like we said, Deadpool and Wolverine. What's your thoughts on it, bro?
First of all, this is something that pretty much needs no introduction. Arguably the most anticipated MCU movie of the last, I would say, 3 years, ever since Spider-Man No Way Home.
Right.
And this was a special one just because, you know, this is the first, you know, venture of the Fox movie properties kind of into the Deadpool or into the MCU.
Right.
Because, you know, of course, you had the first Deadpool and you had Deadpool 2. And then now Deadpool as a character is making his way into the MCU. So there was a lot of hype on this. There was a lot of people that were checking for this because, you know, this movie kind of, whether fairly or not, has been sort of positioned as Marvel's last chance, quote unquote,
right,
to redeem themselves following the sort of string of not failures, but not home runs, I guess you could say, that they've had.
Right. We've kind of been on like a slow decline.
Yeah.
And this movie was kind of like a make or break.
Yeah, low key for a lot of people in the mainstream, I would say so. Yeah. And
I will be honest. When you want to get into critiques now, or you just want to keep talking?
We can just go ahead and just, you know, give a little bit more background information. But yeah, you know, this movie was special for a multitude of reasons. Like I said, Deadpool being incorporated into the MCU. Hugh Jackman coming back as Logan/Wolverine for the first time in almost a decade.
Yeah, which was a big...
Since Logan, which was a big talking point of this movie, which, of course, rightfully so is named Deadpool and Wolverine.
Because him as Logan, Hugh Jackman, Logan was supposed to be his last outing as Wolverine.
Yes, at the time it was confirmed to be his final portrayal of the character.
And it was a very, very nice send-off.
Amazing send-off.
And I just didn't know how they were going to do it again, you know?
Yeah.
How they were going to bring him back.
Because the thing is that we all knew, you know, with this being the multiverse saga at this point, we know at this point that this is going to be a different variation of Logan. This is a different iteration of him. It's not the same Logan that we followed throughout the X-Men franchise. So that for me was enough for me to be like, okay, that's fine as long as they don't really change or really interfere with what made Logan so good.
Right.
And I can say for the most part, you know, they honored it. They didn't really like step on it too much. I mean, not to give any spoilers, but they definitely acknowledge everything that happened with Logan. They definitely acknowledge the fact that Deadpool is set in the same universe. And, you know, it's a very, very... I don't even know how to describe it. It's one of the things you just got to see to believe. It's ridiculous. It's funny. I think that, you know, it was still in good taste because I don't think that it really tampered with the original storyline. I don't think it did anything wrong. I just think it was a little tongue-in-cheek sort of funny thing that they kind of, you know, played with Logan and the X-Men franchise as a whole. But for me personally, and this is where I kind of get into the actual review, you know, background, I have always been a huge MCU fan. It's one of my favorite movie franchises of all time. Right there with Indiana Jones and Star Wars. The MCU is my third favorite. You know, many MCU movies I regard as some of my favorite comic book movies / period. Civil War is one of my favorite movies of all time. Really the original Avengers, Infinity War, Endgame are some of my favorite movies of all time. Winter Soldier, one of my favorites. Guardians. So, you know, needless to say, I'm a big MCU fan, but I've low-key kind of been checked out. I haven't been as invested really since No Way Home. Like, don't get me wrong, I've seen the majority of the movies that have come out since, but I haven't really been checking for them as much. I haven't really gotten the same feeling. So Deadpool and Wolverine was a very important movie for me because I loved the first 2 Deadpool movies. You know, I really, really enjoyed those movies.
Shane.
And then along with the fact Hugh Jackman, his portrayal of Logan is my favorite superhero like film casting of all time. So there was a lot personally that I had invested in this movie. And I will say that for the most part, it's solid.
Okay.
It's solid. wouldn't say that this movie really like blew like the expectations like through the roof. Like it didn't really do anything to reinvent the wheel or the formula.
Right.
It was just a solid enough movie, very entertaining. Starting with the positives, Ryan Reynolds, I don't think it needs to be said at this point, is Deadpool.
Yeah.
You know, he is as good as ever. He hasn't lost a single step in the 6 years since Deadpool 2, so don't really need to discuss that. I mean, he is the character.
If anything, he cranks it up to 11 in this movie.
Yeah, oh no, for sure.
Compared to the first two.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's as irreverent, as foul-mouthed, as just unhinged as always, and you love to see it because, you know, that's what we want from a Deadpool movie at this point.
Right.
This franchise is almost a decade old in and of itself. You believe that? The original Deadpool came out almost 10 years ago in 2016.
That's wild.
It's
just
time
wild. Time is flying for real.
Time flew for real. So
Wolverine, myself included, I agree with him being one of the best cast. Hugh Jackman.
Yes.
And Wolverine's always been one of my favorite Marvel characters of all time.
He's my second favorite superhero ever. Spider-Man is my third, and a lot of that is because of Hugh Jackman.
Right. I agree. I understand. Like Wolverine, like it really touched my heart to see him back in this role.
It did, yeah.
Because it's like, dang, they
that's
really
my
got like,
childhood.
because they go through like, I don't want to spoil anything, but you know, it's just a lot of different versions of like my favorite iterations of him.
Yeah, definitely.
That show up in this movie, and I was happy to see it. Hugh Jackman and not in Wolverine, I'm tripping. Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds, they play off each other extremely
Perfect.
well. Because and their chemistry is great. The banter back and forth between them is great. All the cursing is great. You know? So it's like...
Which there is a lot of. I mean, you know, if you didn't know, this is the first R-rated MCU movie. And boy, did they make good use of that rating.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
They made good use of that.
But it does kind of feel like they were making up for lost time because all the other ones were so, like, watered down.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know, and it's like... I enjoyed it, you know, not the cursing part, but it's like I enjoyed the movie for the most part.
Yeah, their
The
reverence,
action, and the action was extremely fun to watch.
Yeah, of course.
In all the cameos that show up, they got a good bit of the same people that were in the original Fox X-Men. Like you had Aaron Stanford who played Pyro.
Yeah.
In the original ones and in this one too.
The original actor who had played Sabretooth.
Yep, Tyler Mane. Yep. Yeah, I got the cast list up here, and then a good couple of cameos as well
that we won't reveal, but I mean,
right.
There'll be something that you definitely didn't expect to see. You know,
right?
They brought in some people that I would have never ever thought would even be in another movie. Period. Let alone be in an MCU movie. So that's one thing about the multiverse saga that I can give some kind of credit to, is that it's been cool to see some of these kinds of actors kind of get their second win. Mm-hmm. You know, kind of get their second chance. Like for example, like with Andrew Garfield,
right?
Like Spider-Man: No Way Home,
right?
Like he kind of retroactively got the praise that he really deserved for playing the character back in his first, what would have been his trilogy in The Amazing Spider-Man.
And with that being said, just a little sidetrack a little bit, the Amazing Spider-Man movies really weren't that bad. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 wasn't even that bad to me. I don't care what nobody says, fight me. Anyway.
That's a whole different video.
We had Ray Park come back as Toad. Like, just seeing all the original X-Men, like
Deathstrike, Lady Deathstrike is in there too.
Lady Deathstrike, yep, you're right. Who played by even Callisto, Dania Ramirez plays Callisto.
Yeah,
back from X-Men Last Stand. Kelly Hu, Lady Deathstrike. There's a lot of good ones.
Yeah, and I don't think that this is a spoiler. As a matter of fact, it's not, because it was revealed in the trailer, like the final trailer. Daphne Keane, she reprises her role as Laura / X-23 from Logan, which again, that's another thing I really loved, is that she got her second chance as the character, because there was supposed to be an X-23 spinoff that was going to take place after Logan, that was going to kind of follow her journey and everything, and kind of her maybe forming her own version of the X-Men, but because Fox, you know, and Marvel, they came to that agreement, and the MCU purchased the rights to the X-Men. That was null and void, along with the original Deadpool 3.
And same thing with the Gambit movie that was supposed to star Channing Tatum. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah. So there was just a lot of, because when Marvel bought the rights. It's just a lot of stuff kind of got shelved and or reworked, if not completely thrown out. So a lot of actors kind of ended up out of the job. So it was nice to see some of these actors kind of get their second win. Like I said, that's something I've really enjoyed about the multiverse saga, is that we've kind of gotten to see these actors and these versions of these characters come back in a way to where it feels rewarding. It feels like 100%. A real end. It feels like a real end to their time as the character.
100%. And another positive with this movie too, as far as the cameos are concerned. Like, y'all know me. I'm not a big cameo guy unless they're
especially
like
if it's fan service.
Especially if exactly, when they're abused and fan servicey. But one thing I do love about this one, and also same thing with the Across the Spider-Verse as well, was the fact that they used the cameos to drive the story forward.
Yeah,
like they weren't just, ooh, look at this guy.
I agree.
What I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's like I really did enjoy that aspect of it as well. And but yeah, that's kind of all the good things I can say about the movie. High octane action, fast paced. I enjoyed that. The banter back and forth, the performances, all the performances were really, really good. Yeah. And it's like a real funny scene, really funny, unexpected scene happens in this movie that had me laughing for a good little bit. Yeah. I'm not going to say who or especially what they are, but y'all will see when y'all see the movie.
I think for me, jury is out on where this one ranks as far as the Deadpool movies, as far as like the funniest one. But I definitely think that for the most part, the jokes are solid. They're consistent. They do hit on a similar level. Because for me, Deadpool 2 was funnier than the original. Just because Deadpool 2 took the original and it made it... For me, I like the original Deadpool a lot.
I agree.
Like, especially looking back on it now. But for me, I prefer Deadpool 2 because Deadpool 2 was more in line with what I really wanted from a Deadpool movie. Just... more over the top, zany comic book, just nonsense. Right. Like at the end where he gets Cable's time device and he just goes back in time and does all of that stuff, which is incorporated into Deadpool and Wolverine. But that's for our spoiler review, right? Which look out for that.
Yeah, coming next week.
But yeah, no, it was just like, as far as just overall, I think that this was a solid entry in the MCU. I wouldn't say it reinvented the wheel. Wouldn't say that it was the best story. Wasn't necessarily the best villain. Cassandra Nova, Charles Xavier's sister,
twin sister. Yeah, and to get to some of the negatives, those were two big ones for me. Yeah, Cassandra Nova. What's her name? The actress who plays her. The actress
was really good.
Emma Corrin. Yeah, she did a really good job. She did a really good job as Cassandra Nova. Y'all, like we say, Charles Xavier's twin sister. She did really good, but she was just another one-dimensional villain.
She was very underwritten, if you ask me.
100%, because she has a very. It's just very like she's had just another tyrannical type, megalomaniacal villain that you see in a
Saturday morning cartoon. You ask me. That's exactly what it reminded me of. And see, my thing with it is that as far as this goes, it brought me back to the era of the MCU where the narrative around it is that its biggest weakness is that they weren't good with their villains. That's what it reminded me of.
Right, and this comes back full circle with this one.
Like Thor Dark World era, like MCU with like the Elf King. Stuff like that.
Like the only other good villains that we had were like Killmonger, Thanos, and even Ultron.
Yeah, for Ultron for sure. Loki.
Loki's
a classic.
Yeah, Loki. Yeah. Anyway, so
you just couldn't help yourself, huh?
I can't. But anyway, so it's like, yeah, she's very much one of those similar, like you said, like Malekith.
She's a means to an end. For me, she doesn't really do much for the narrative, if that makes sense.
She's just kind of in the way. Exactly. She's just there to give the story some conflict, really.
Yeah, I agree.
Because truth be told, the real villain could be, I don't know, like the guy Paradox, but
even him he wasn't that interesting either.
Right, none of them really were. Like, I'll say she's an interesting character, Cassandra Nova,
but she was underwritten.
Yeah, thank you.
This guy,
go ahead.
Parallax or whatever his name.
Paradox.
Paradox. He, for me, wasn't so much is an underwritten issue. It's just that he's just not inherently interesting issue,
right.
If you ask me.
Exactly. Like to me, he has better writing with him, but he's a more uninteresting character.
Yeah.
While Cassandra Nova, like you said, she's unwritten, but she's a more interesting character.
Yeah.
So I feel like if they would have did a little bit more with her, I would have been more invested, because they set her up in the trailers to be this big, all powerful, big bad, but she's just
barely in the movie. If you ask me,
she's just another.
She feels like she has no real overarching villainous presence.
Exactly. She's just another leader from a Mad Max movie. That's essential.
Which is funny because Deadpool does make fun of the Mad Max universe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that's essentially what she is. Another negative. This might be a tad bit controversial, but in my honest opinion, the story really suffers mainly because Deadpool is more like a distraction to me rather than like an essential. No, he is an essential character. Let me not say that. But I feel like if they weren't so focused so much on his like jokes all the time, I feel like this story would have been a tad bit better and more endearing.
Like, you feel like there wasn't enough heart written around Deadpool's struggle and his conflict that he was going through. Because in the movie, of course, no spoilers, he's kind of at a crossroads in life. He's kind of like at a down point in his life. And this was the official synopsis before, so this isn't a spoiler. In the movie at the start, he hasn't been Deadpool for 6 years. Like, he's given up Deadpool. Like, he's kind of retired at this point. He's selling cars.
Right.
And so, the movie has Deadpool as sort of a crossroads and sort of a conflict in his life, but I feel like it's not written as deeply as I think past entries were. Because I think, like, with especially Deadpool 2, like, the whole idea of him losing Vanessa, and so now he's trying to protect Russell, because that's what she would have wanted. I think that there was a lot more to that.
Same thing with in the first movie, when him wanting to live and him leaving Vanessa to find a cure for his cancer,
Yeah, I think that this movie kind of suffers from a lack of, and this brings me to my overall biggest problem with this movie. I feel like there's a lot of interesting ideas and concepts in this movie that are not as thoroughly explored as they could be. Right. Like, I would say, like, this Wolverine, again, no spoilers, the whole thing with him is that he's a Wolverine that's considered the worst because he, quote unquote, let down his whole universe. And that's an interesting concept, especially because of, in comparison to the Wolverine and the Logan we're used to. But I think that they kind of dropped the ball as far as kind of exploring that, which is a shame, because the scenes where Hugh Jackman kind of talks about it and, speaks on his pain and his trauma and what he's gone through is acted amazingly. Like, he did a really good job of conveying that Wolverine's pain in particular, but they don't do as thorough of a job as I would have expected them to do.
Right.
As far as really like breaking that down and sort of analyzing that.
Right.
And I think, and not to cut you off, I'll say the same thing for as far as like, again, Deadpool, and as far as really the overall arcing issue is that it's just a lack of depth compared to the first two, and really just a lot of past MCU movies. It's just a lot of depth lacking within this story. Like, again, we go back to Cassandra Nova. Has potential, has a good setup as far as her being stuck in the void and everything, but again, not explored as thoroughly as it could have been. So it just kind of leaves you wanting more. It kind of leaves you with this feeling like, I would really like to know more about this Wolverine. I would like 100%. To see like a flashback or something like that. I would like to see more of Cassandra Nova and why she's the way she is. They even like say in the movie, they're like, "Why? I wonder why you're the way you are," and she's like, "I wish I knew." And so it's kind of like that's a missed opportunity for them to kind of explore and kind of break down the depths of her character, like with Thanos. Now, granted, you could argue that Thanos had all those years of setup, but Thanos didn't really jump into the action. We didn't get to really know Thanos until Infinity War. And that's when you really kind of saw them break down his character and, you know, his motivation in doing the things that he does.
Right.
And that was done in a way that was really, really compelling.
What really helped with Thanos is the fact that in the comics, he's already set up to be this warlord anyway.
Yeah.
But exactly. A lot of people don't really know who Cassandra Nova is. It's kind of like with the Eternals. That's Cassandra Nova in a sense.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't really know about the Eternals, but they don't really do a good job telling you who she is or what she's about.
Yeah.
The only thing that they give us is that she's Charles Xavier's twin sister.
Yeah, that's it.
And that that's really about it.
And that's my thing, is that there was so much potential for just the dynamic between her and Logan would have been interesting, because and they kind of do a little bit with that, but not much. Like right. The dynamic with Logan is like, you know, because Logan obviously being a pupil of Charles Xavier, that represents everything that he stood for and that he taught. How would it have been to see how different he interacts with his sister, right. Who is the exact opposite essentially of who Charles is / was.
Exactly.
So I think that was also a missed opportunity. But I mean, you could argue that these are Netflix is crazy. You could argue that these are nitpicks, but
yeah, I guess
because I think overall, and not to cut you off, I think overall the movie is still solid for what definitely. It is. I just think that there was more that could have been done with the narrative.
I agree, because it's like I said. Like, just what brought it down for me, what made the story suffer was the fact they just kept focusing on Deadpool being jokey this whole time.
Yeah.
Like, this movie clearly knows what its focus was. It was focused on the dynamic between Deadpool and Wolverine, the same dynamic that they have in the comics, and I get that.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's like you said, I wanted it to be more as well. Yeah. Because when Wolverine told his backstory about why everybody hates him in his universe, I kind of was in my seat saying, "That's it."
That's what I said.
Like that's all.
That's the big reveal.
That's the reason why everybody hates you.
Yeah, literally.
I'm like, bro, you didn't really do anything wrong. Like
that's what I'm saying. Like so you over here beating yourself up, and the whole world is blaming him. But if you ask me, and we'll get into this in the spoiler review. If you ask me, it didn't really make that much sense to me, to be honest with you.
Right. Yeah, I kind of want to say it now just to get it out the way, but we'll
talk about it.
Spoiler review.
We'll talk about it for sure.
But that's kind of how I was. I'm like, you set up Wolverine to, like, there's a whole bunch of messed up stuff Wolverine has done in his history overall, from when he was first introduced to like now. There's a lot of messed up stuff Logan could beat himself up over. And you mean that? And there's stuff that they could have pulled from another comic. That does this, that kind of does the same thing that Logan in 2017 was based on.
Yeah,
they could have pulled from
Old Man
Logan. They could have pulled from that. I didn't want to say it per se because it's like it might go into spoiler territory. But anyway, I didn't want to. But they could have did something with that more interesting like that than just the fact that I can't say it, but when we get into the spoiler review, you'll know what we're talking about.
For sure.
But at the end of the day, that's how I was kind of left with it. I'm like, yeah, it's cool to see Hugh Jackman's Wolverine back, but it's like this is the big reveal. This is what you mad about?
That's what I'm saying.
Man, you better.
If you don't, let me stop. Like, if you don't pick yourself up and get back to doing what it is you do,
exactly.
Like that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like it's like he's almost beating it. It's almost like self-hating for no real reason.
Right. Like it's nothing that you could control.
Yeah.
Like literally. It ain't really your fault. You shouldn't be mad, but it's like
But you understand because, at his core, Logan has always been a good guy who really loves and cares for his family.
He's just gruff on the outside.
He's gruff, but he cares more than anybody. That's the thing I've always loved about Logan.
But overall, to wrap up my part, I did enjoy this movie.
I think I would like it a lot more on second viewing. I think I gotta watch it again, and I think hype removed, I'll just be able to enjoy the movie for what it is. Because I think on my part, maybe I just kind of like put a little too much on this movie in particular. Maybe it wasn't fair. So I'm gonna watch it again and kind of gauge how I really feel about it, hype removed, and just see overall what I think.
Right.
Because it's not a bad movie at all.
It's not. No. And all these negatives aren't to say that this is a bad movie, because it's not. It's just certain things I feel like just needed to be fleshed out more.
I agree.
But other than that, it's still a great movie. I still enjoyed it.
Yeah, the entertainment value is still really high with this movie.
But for me, it's a solid 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
It's like low heat for me, not because it's a bad movie or anything like that. It just didn't reach the expectations I thought it reached that I had for it, and Same. It's just really just another good MCU movie.
I agree.
It doesn't break the MCU, but it definitely doesn't really make it either.
Yeah,
it's just kind of one of them things. It's just like another Loki episode.
Yeah, I agree.
That doesn't go anywhere.
Not to disrespect it, because there's a lot, and I mean there's a lot of stuff to like in this movie. There's definitely a lot of stuff. There's a lot more. There's more to like in this movie than to not like.
Exactly.
In my opinion. But it just didn't reach those expectations that I was really like placing on it.
Right.
And really, I feel like the world was placing on it.
Right.
But overall, I still feel like the movie succeeded in what it was trying to be, what it was trying to do. 100%. I think it succeeded. Not with flying colors, but it succeeded.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I got to say, at least for this video.
What would you give it?
I'll give it a 7.5. Originally, when we were talking last night, I had said a 7, but thinking about it more at work and just kind of like rethinking it over in my head, I'm like, you know what? I'll give this movie at least a 7.5. Maybe that'll increase on second viewing. Maybe it won't.
Right, Sam.
But we'll see.
Yeah. Either way, we hope y'all enjoy this episode, this review. Spoiler review coming through next week. I've been Jay.
This has been Rodney.
And we're at LATD. Y'all look at the details now. Peace.